ahead and get the meeting started. I would like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Governing Board of the Chandler Unified School District. Today is March 25th, 2020. And Mrs. Nye, can you, let me see if I can, would you be able to do our roll call for us?
Yes. Barb Mosden.
Here.
Laura Bruner.
Here.
David Evans.
I'm here.
Lindsay Love.
Here.
Karen McGee.
Here.
Thank you, Mrs. Nye. We will go ahead and do our Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will follow that with a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will now go ahead and start with some of our routine business. We need to approve the minutes of the February 26th, 2020 regular board meeting. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 26, 2020 regular board meeting as presented.
Do I have a second?
Madam President, Dave Evans, I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Lindsay Love and seconded by David Evans to approve the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
It is approved unanimously. Our second item is to approve payroll for February 27th and March 12th, 2020, and our current expenditures.
Madam President, this is Lindsay, and I make a motion to approve the payroll for February 27th, March 12th, 2020, and current expenditures.
Do I have a second?
I'll second again.
Okay, it's been seconded both by David and by Karen. Thank you. All those in favor of approving payroll for the February 27th and March 12th, please say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Our next, Dr. Castile, do you have any correspondence this evening?
We have none this evening, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Before we get into the consent agenda, I just wanted to do maybe a couple of housekeeping things. We are doing this meeting this evening by Zoom due to the fact that we are not supposed to be having gatherings of individuals of more than 10 individuals. And our board meeting typically has many more than that. And we have decided to do it so that the public still can hear our deliberations on various things for this and comply with our open meeting law. We have decided to do our meeting by Zoom this evening. So we appreciate all of the individuals who are here that have logged in and are joining us this evening. Thank you very much. I don't know how many more meetings that we will continue to be doing it this way. It just depends on how the COVID-19 infection rates continue and whether we level off and all that, and whether schools are open and all of these things are relieved. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. And so we will be doing this until we say we aren't going to be doing it, and we'll be opening up the boardroom again. So this, our next event, or our next agenda item is our consent agenda, and Dr. Castile will be presenting that this evening. Dr. Castile?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, we have our monetary gifts in the amount of $26,534.52 that has been generated and donated to our schools. We have items that were estimated at $3,600 that was submitted and provided to our schools. We have a memorandum of understanding between Chandler Unified School District and Independence Gardens. As you know, the rice elementary school scheduled to open in the fall has a sustainability theme. This is a nonprofit. It establishes a school-based nutrition education program and an outdoor learning environment for Rice Elementary. The request approval of contract services through Independence Gardens through February 5th of 2023. Cybersecurity, our network guide to networks resources. As you know, Basha High School's cybersecurity program has requested that this particular resource, it's the 8th edition by West Andrews and Dean, published by Cengage for the 2020-21 school year. It's currently used at Chandler Gilbert Community College for the same coursework, and it will be used in the dual enrollment courses offered at Basha. This resource has been on public display at the Instructional Resource Center starting in January. Feedback from staff and community was collected, and I will say there wasn't any impact from the community. This has a very limited use, being that it's only in our one program. So we didn't get a lot of input from the community. Anticipated cost is $6,300 for print and digital resources. We'll fund that out of the district textbook fund. The next, we have our annual intergovernmental agreement with the City of Chandler. We started a grant for our SRO officers in 2017-18. This is the third year of a Safe Schools grant. This is in partnership with the City of Chandler, and it agrees to place 6 Chandler Police Department school resource officers at 7 of our schools: Basha High, Chandler High, Hamilton High, Anderson Junior High, Bogle Junior High, Santan Junior High, and Willis Junior High. 3 SROs are funded and 3 are not funded by way of the grant. The bottom line is the total salaries and benefits for the 3 non-grant officers is $457,452. We agree to split those that cost. Our grant is funding the 3 officers at $416,170. This agreement allows us, since we obtain the grant money, we're recommending approval as a sole source procurement for the City of Chandler in the amount of $873,322. It covers 6 SROs, of which the grant is covering 3 of them. We're requesting approval to continue with this intergovernmental agreement with the City of Chandler. Procurement of technology items, as you know, you have granted us an annual authorization for technologies in the amount of $5 million. That helps us facilitate ordering and deploying these items to our sites very quickly. The increase, we're requesting a $2 million increase to bring the annual contribution up to $7 million. The cost for computers, projector replacements at the sites listed below are some of the immediate purchases. And we will also be requesting monitors and computers for Rice Elementary, requesting approval to increase our cap. We'd like to increase the SAVE contract with Cartwright School District. And originally we had estimated $200,000 would be sufficient. At this time, we're asking to improve that based on the increased utilization for the various vendors for Z-Space, Vex Robotics, Project Lead the Way, Carolina Biological Supply. Our schools are pretty active in the STEM arena, and costs have increased. The 8th item is the network and Wi-Fi equipment. This is funded by way of E-rate. All vendors were to be on existing cooperative contracts that could be used to make this purchase. This is for network and Wi-Fi equipment. After submittals and evaluations, Enterprise Network Solutions is the recommended vendor in the amount of $684,810.78. Finally, your human resources, employment, separation, and compensation. We're recommending approval of these 9 items in your consent agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Castillo. Could I please get a motion for approval of the consent agenda as presented?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. It's Lindsay.
Is there a second?
This is Karen, and I'll second it.
Thank you, Karen. So it was moved by Lindsay and seconded by Karen. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Next, we'll move on to our action items. Our first one is our guaranteed maximum price number 2 for high school number 7. Mr. Fletcher.
Madam President, members of the board, on January 22nd, 2020, the governing board approved guaranteed maximum price number 1 covering phase 1 scope of work for the new high school. Approval is now requested for guaranteed maximum price number 2 in the amount of $65,875,110 for the remaining balance of construction, which includes mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, structural work, carpentry and millwork, frames, doors, and hardware, flooring, concrete, and polishing, indoor athletic equipment, electrical, HVAC, and fire alarm systems, as well as special systems. We recommend approval of core construction for guaranteed maximum price number 2 in the amount of $65,875,110, which brings the total of both guaranteed maximum prices to an even $88 million. I'm sorry, $65,875,110, which brings both GMPs to 88.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Could I please get a motion from the board?
Madam President, this is Dave Evans. I liked the $65,000 price better, but I move that we approve GMP number 2 for high school number 7 to core construction in the amount of $65,875,110.
And do I have a second?
This is Karen. I'll second it.
Thank you. So does the board have any questions for Mr. Fletcher? David, do you have any?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, Mr. Fletcher, this is just kind of unusual for us to have over a year to actually build a school. So I'm just, we won't really have an idea of we'll be able to see as progress goes, but we won't be getting updates from you. We do when there are 6 weeks to go and we're just putting flooring down and roofs on.
If the board would like reports monthly or quarterly, we can certainly do that as far as what the progress is.
Okay, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary, but just it'd be nice to, because we won't be as focused on it as the new principal will and some other people will, so.
Well, we will certainly be focused on it, Mr. Evans.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Mrs. McGee, do you have any questions?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Mrs. Bruner, do you have any?
I was just wondering if there's anything unusual the last month or so with progress, or is it all pretty standard?
We are tracking on schedule at this time to deliver phase 1 in July of 2021. So nothing unusual at this time.
Thank you.
Ms. Love, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay. Mr. Fletcher, how do you, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but how do you believe, or do you think that the COVID-19 situation is going to have any impact on the construction timeline?
Mrs. Maz and I have talked with Todd Steffen, the president of CORE Arizona, regarding high school number 7, and Steve Poulin, the vice president of K-12 for McCarthy. For elementary 32, both of us do have some concerns with some long lead time items, which is why we tried to get those both GMPs under contract early. At this point, they're hearing from some suppliers that there may be some labor shortages and some delays in materials, but at this point in time, we're not seeing any evidence of that.
Okay, and when you do mention the shortage of materials, what type of materials are you referring to? Would they be ones that are more or less, they have a foreign source that aren't getting to our ports, or what type of materials are you?
No, so for example, masonry used to be an 8-week lead time. It's now 12 weeks. Mechanical equipment is now 12 to 14 weeks. So we're just seeing delays in products. We're not really exactly sure what the exact reason for that is, but both organizations have assured me that we will be on schedule and on time.
And do you think that there is going to be actually any shortages of materials where we won't be able to get things in order to complete the construction?
As far as the facility on site goes, no, maybe off site with traffic signals, et cetera. But other than that, we believe everything on site at this point in time is tracking on schedule.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fletcher. If there's no other questions from board members, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of GMP number 2 for high school number 7 in the amount of $65,875,110, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mrs. Bruner. I did get the thumbs up. Our next is the governing board resolution for COVID-19. Dr. Castile.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, this is a resolution. Similar resolutions have been approved and are being approved across the state, and I'd like to read it in its totality. This is in relationship to COVID-19, whereas the governor of the state of Arizona and the superintendent of public instruction have closed all Arizona schools through April 10th, 2020, and whereas the Chandler Unified School District number 80 of Maricopa County, Arizona, has the authority to close schools in an emergency pursuant to ARS 15806B, Governing Board Policy EBCD, Weather-Related and Emergency Closings, and Governing Policy ID School Day, and related administrative regulations. And whereas Governing Board has determined that it is in the district's best interest to close its school to assist in the containment of a potential outbreak of COVID-19 and carry out the actions listed below. And whereas the Governing Board finds that it is in the best interest of the district and serves a public purpose to maintain district operations, continue to pay its employees for a period of the school closure to the extent possible, maintain CUSD's high-quality workforce, and meet its contractual obligations. Now, therefore, it is resolved by the Governing Board of Chandler Unified School District number 80 of Maricopa County, Arizona, that's 1, the Governing Board authorizes the closures of all its schools until further notice. 2, the Governing Board authorizes the superintendent to extend the dates of the school closure if necessary, consistent with the Governing Board policies EBCD and ID. In such a case, the superintendent will so notify the Governing Board to allow the Governing Board the opportunity to convene a board meeting if deemed necessary. 3, the Governing Board authorizes the superintendent to continue regular or modified pay for all employees as deemed necessary and in the district's best interest. Said action shall be consistent with and comply with federal and or state laws, the district's budgetary constraints, and the community's needs. 4, during school closures, employees shall be expected to perform work as assigned by the superintendent, either on-site, at home, or otherwise designated. Hourly, non-exempt employees assigned to work in child care programs open specifically to care for children of medical personnel and first responders will be paid an hourly differential for time physically worked at designated facilities. The Governing Board authorizes, number 5, the Governing Board authorizes the superintendent to work with local and state authorities to maintain the minimum number of hours of instruction as required by Arizona Revised Statute 15901 and to create a corresponding change to the school calendar if necessary. Number 6, the governing board authorizes the superintendent to execute all requisite documents to apply to the Arizona Department of Education for the excuse of students from school attendance because of school closure pursuant to ARS 15806B. Number 7, the governing board authorizes the superintendent to execute any further documentation to effectuate this resolution, including but not limited to any requisite notices required by the Arizona Department of Education or local and state health authorities. Number 8, to the extent that any provision in this resolution conflicts with or is superseded by enacted federal or state legislation or local ordinances, the district shall comply with those laws or ordinances. This resolution is presented and passed and adopted by the governing board as a properly noticed regular governing board meeting held on March 25th, 2020. The governing board also authorizes the governing board president to sign this resolution on behalf of the entire school board. Submitted by the administration with the assistance of our legal advice to make sure we were doing all our paperwork properly and asking for permission in accordance with the law. Recommend approval.
Thank you, Dr. Castillo. Could I please get a motion from a board member?
Madam President, this is Lindsay. I make a motion to approve the resolution regarding COVID-19.
Is there a second?
This is Karen. I'll second.
Okay, do we have any questions? Maybe we'll start with you, Karen. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Bruner?
No questions.
Okay. Ms. Love?
I actually do have some questions. So what are the safety precautions in place to protect our staff and students, especially around like the ones who are working in our daycare, childcare for first responders? If you can answer that, Dr. Castile.
There's a number of precautions. We're following all the CDC guidelines with the number of individuals that are in an area. We have put on extra staff in those childcare situations. We have a registered nurse at every one of the sites that is making sure if we have any children or adults that experience any of the indications that they have a problem, we have a registered nurse on site there. All our staff has been trained, and again, with the increased staffing and the reduced ratios, we believe we're in pretty good shape. We have 2 sites open currently. The word is just now getting out to our hospital and our first responders. We have had some inquiries from nursing homes and other facilities that are in desperate need of their workers coming to work, and at the same time their workers need a place to bring their children, a safe place to bring their children. We have done this in alignment with several districts across the state. I know that we are working indirectly with state agencies to provide this, especially to our healthcare workers and our first responders.
Thank you. I have like 2 more questions actually. So like, let's say I'm an hourly non-exempt worker. I'm, providing childcare at this first responders childcare situation, and I start showing symptoms, or somebody in my family starts showing symptoms. Like, what's the process from there?
We would, and Mrs. Cooper, I think you're online too, but we would have them go home and they would be under quarantine if they have the symptoms or self-isolation. We would follow the CDC rules, and Mrs. Cooper right now is preparing all those question and answers for our employees. Mrs. Cooper, are you online?
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to that in terms of if that would go to any of our employees who might have symptoms? Could you explain that to the board?
Yes, any of our employees, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we have very strict guidelines to ensure that employee with any symptoms or even exposed to somebody with coronavirus would be under some self-isolation or self-quarantine. So just to be protective so they never enter the workplace. If somebody exhibits signs at work, then immediately they should go home and we'll work with them, that employee directly, to make sure that their needs are taken care of and that they're out of the, they're self-isolated through the full 14 days of exposure period. And then there will be some other protections for employees as well, just to protect and to make sure that we do protect our environment and we safeguard the environment on the work on site when employees are working, just to make sure that there's every protection for the employees so that they do not come to work while they're sick and they stay home.
So like with them being hourly, because we've seen this problem where with hourly workers, they will show up sick because they can't afford to miss their check. What does pay look like if you have an employee who has to go into self-isolation?
Yes, that is what I was getting at. We will have pay for employees. And in fact, employees were just getting that together, but employees do not have to use leave right now that they are being paid. We do not want employees to show up to work while they're sick, and we certainly don't want pay to be an issue or be a determining factor that they would show up to work while they're sick. So we're working with them to make sure that their pay is not impacted, and we either provide them a modified assignment that they could do at home while they're isolated, or that they have appropriate leave, or even there'll be some opportunities for a paid leave, I think, under the new federal expanded FMLA Act, which has just been approved, and we're trying to get all the details to prepare and to roll that out to employees. But just to be succinct, Ms. Love, we do not want employees to show up to work ill and or exposed and come to work to expose others. And we're going to work with them to make sure their pay is not impacted.
Ms. Love, do you have any other questions?
Sorry. My next question is around, like there were some workers who are working on site, and I assume that that's not only just like for childcare staff, they're different assignments. What do we have, in terms of like employees who feel like they might be high risk due to different health issues like asthma, autoimmune disorders? Would they be expected to work on site, or would they be giving like alternative assignments online or anything to kind of help them protect themselves from the risk of COVID-19?
Ms. Love, we have continued to work with each employee that has a health condition that they feel like they're more high risk than others. Again, providing them with another modified assignment that might be more in isolation of other employees, or they may be working at home. So we're working with each one of those cases on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Love. Mr. Evans, do you have any questions?
No, Love asked one of the ones that I was thinking of, so thank you for that, Lindsay.
Okay. I think Lindsay asked pretty much all of the questions that I have, with the exception of what are we doing about any type of health screening when the children who we're watching, when they come into the facilities? What is the protocol for that?
Madam President, we don't have children coming into the facilities at this time. Is that what you're referencing?
I'm referencing for the daycare that we're doing. Those children who are coming into the facility to have daycare. We have the staff there to watch those children, and we have a nurse on site. Are those children being screened on a daily basis when they come in to make sure that we don't have sick children at the facility?
Lana, I think you're online. Do you have a specific answer to that? I know the registered nurse is there.
We don't have a specific test or anything in particular, but we do have a registered nurse that was on site to check students, and if there was any sign that they were ill, then we'll definitely have communication with that parent and that child would go home. But at this point, the children we've received so far have been healthy. But again, it's more of the call of the nurse that's on site. That's why we have a registered nurse at both sites.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and.
Actually, Madam President,
yes.
I do have another question. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Ms. Love. Mhm.
If there is a child who is showing symptoms or, God forbid, is sick, would the families be notified of that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Immediately.
Okay, so all the families would get like a letter or some kind of like notification, just kind of letting them know that there was a child that was sick and put their children at risk.
Yes, the parents of the specific child would get an immediate phone call, and we would alert the other families as indicated by the medical personnel.
Okay, sorry, that's all I had.
No, that's good. Those are good questions, all of them.
Can I ask one question too before you?
Yes, Ms. Bruner.
I was just curious about with classified assignments. I know it can be kind of a challenge to make all of those at home. And I was just wondering, are we getting any feedback from the sites or the individuals themselves about some ideas of what they could be doing? For example, maybe there's some landscaping or maintenance things that normally would have been held off till summer, but they might be able to do now, or things like that. Have we done anything like that where, just one person can work on something at a time and not be in big clusters of people?
Sure. This is Camille. We've just returned from a 2-week intersession, so many of our site support staff, classified staff, are just returning this week. And there have been hours of conversation with the site administrators and the various groups on the kinds of activities that we'll need help with. We'll be making packets for distribution that we will bring small groups in to assist with if they're following all the guidelines. The teachers on a broad span, some have already been in contact with their students, some are in the process of doing that. All the plans will be rolled out by the end of the week to our families on what's going to occur. We've spent the last couple of days and will most of tomorrow engaging with staff, both on the certified and the support staff. We are looking at custodians and security guards, our transportation folks, our grounds and maintenance, all of them, all of the supervisors in those areas have been working together to make sure we have meaningful work for all the individuals involved. We're also looking at training. We never seem to have time for training. We have some outstanding training opportunities that we can do virtually as well. So I think by the end of this week, certainly a couple more days or the middle of next week, we'll have a really nice report for the board so that you'll know exactly how we're deploying this.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and vote on the governing board resolution, the COVID-19. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I think that I heard everyone, so that motion carries unanimously. Now we'll go on to our information items, our student activity, auxiliary operations, and tax credit reports. Mrs. Berry.
All right, Madam President, members of the board, the student activities, auxiliary operations, and tax credit reports for the months ending July of 2019 through February of 2020 are provided for your review.
Do any board members have any questions on these?
No.
Okay, I'm just going to go on. So board members, just jump in if you do have a question on some of these items. Our next information item are policy revisions for DJE, the bidding and purchasing procedures. Mr. Fletcher.
Madam President, members of the board, what we have here is anything that's under $100,000 is governed by the Uniform System of Financial Records. In the past, you had $10,000 to $50,000, which required 3 verbal quotes, and $50,000 to $100,000, 3 written quotes. What this policy change does is removes the 3 verbal quotes. So now anything that $10,000 to $100,000 requires a 3 written quotes instead of, and it just eliminates the 3 verbal quotes. So for your information, we're presenting those changes.
Mr. Fletcher, does this, will this cause more work, less work for your department? No change?
Mrs. Mausden, we pretty much have eliminated verbal quotes unless we are in a situation where we need something within 24 or 48 hours.
And
we are doing written quotes already.
Okay, and this change was made due to new legislation, is that correct?
The Auditor General's report recommended to the ADE to update the uniform system of financial records in that manner.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Mr. Evans?
Wow, you heard that? You heard that sigh, that breathe in. Actually, no questions for Mr. Fletcher, but I did want to go back to Mrs. Berry on the student activity report. I'm sorry. Something just came to my thinking process. Mrs. Berry, you talked about the student activity and the tax credit reports, and with IRS changes, taxes necessary until July 15th. So people still have an opportunity to make a tax credit contribution.
I believe so. Yes. So April 15th was the actual date that they were due. Now we haven't gotten anything officially out, but we were assuming that it'd be July 15th. We have not sent out information on that because we haven't got anything on a confirmation, but the Arizona Department of Revenue, I'm assuming, is going to follow those same guidelines. So we should know, we haven't received anything official in a memorandum or anything that's changed, but I'm assuming that'll be July 15th. But that's a great thing for us to point out, that they can go up to July 15th. Should be able to.
Okay. Hopefully,
Thank you.
And
we'll get out some communication on that. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great. Because I haven't made mine yet, and
Great
I still
point.
would like to. But
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Fletcher? Okay, we'll now move on to our board agenda roadmap. As everyone can see, the National School Boards Association Annual Conference in Chicago was canceled for this for April 4th through the 6th. The schools are closed through April 10th. Our next meeting is April 8th. And I am assuming that we will again do this as a virtual meeting to make sure that we can get our employees paid and take care of various housekeeping activities that we have to take care of as a board for the district. We do have some other activities, but at this point in time, we're not going to review those because we don't know whether those will still be on our schedules or not. So are there any other additions or corrections to our roadmap? Okay, we will then move on.
I think I have a question.
Yes, Mrs. Brunner.
Is there any way to possibly make the night of recognition, if we can't have it, like make some kind of video or something like that? On April 15th, it's currently scheduled, I think. Or
Dr. Castile, do you have any, could we have some type of perhaps a,
She muted. Mrs. Mausden?
yes.
Terry Locke is in the room, and let us work on how we could promote those success stories. I would say that we're going to recommend we delay those boundary recommendations. It doesn't seem fair that we would proceed with boundaries without having an audience or at least inviting parents to participate. The night of recognition and we will look at how we might do that and promote it virtually if at all possible. So again, we're taking this 1 week at a time as things seem to be moving relatively quickly, but great suggestion.
Great. Okay, we will then move on to our, board member comments. Do any of our board members have any comments or questions?
I do. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Castile and the cabinet. I think that they've done an amazing job with keeping us informed during this whole thing. I know it's not easy. I know, like, I definitely inundated Dr. Castile with a number of questions. But, you know, thank you guys so much for the work that you've done around this and for being willing to answer our questions and give us up-to-date information on all of this.
Thank you, Ms. Love. I wanted to make a comment concerning our food and nutrition program. We have been feeding a lot of children. I believe we got an update today that said that we have given out over 21,000 meals to students in our community. And for our Jenny Bracamonte emailed me back, and she said some of the best things. She said the community has been very supportive. She says we've received donations of bottled water, donuts, Menchie's frozen yogurt, and pizza. And our personal favorite are the thank you notes. She attached a couple of them, and I wanted to read two of them. It says, "Dear Helpies, I want to thank you for help." Hold on one second. I want to thank you for helping these kids get healthy. Yes, some kids do not have food. You've been helping a lot. You should earn a treat. Thank you. Thank you, lunch helpers. And there's a little picture that shows an umbrella with somebody handing a bag to a car with people in it with food, a bag with food, and giving it to them. And then another one says, "Thank you for these wonderful lunches that you make for us. Me and my sister really enjoy them, and my mom likes them because they are free. I think you are great, so you deserve a thumbs up." And again, a picture of them picking up a sack meals in their cars. So I want to thank our food and nutrition workers, Steve Hewitt with community education, Dr. Castile, that we put into place a system so that we can give our students, keep our students fed during the time that the schools are closed, because we have many people that do go hungry in our community, and it's very much appreciated. Mrs. McGee, do you have anything to say?
No, thank you.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to say really thank you to all of the administration, staff, every member of this community, because all of this happened right as we went on break. And I don't think there was a single moment when, if someone had a question, if someone had a concern, a worry, a thought about helping a child with meals, as you just talked about, or first responders with getting support for their children so that they could work and things they need to help the community. I don't think there's been a moment when somebody couldn't make a phone call to the school district and or walk into that office, even though it's been closed supposedly, but I've walked in a couple of times myself, when you couldn't walk into the office, make a phone call, and get a real life person to pick up the phone and figure out a way to make something happen for else in this city. So I can't believe how courteous people have been to each other. I've been really proud to be a Chandler resident. And there are a couple people like Victor Hardy, Reverend Victor Hardy right now is running the 4-Hour City program and is out volunteering and looking for people to help in safe ways, and other people out in the community who are just doing fantastic work. So thank you to all of you.
Let's see. Mrs. Bruner, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone at Haley Elementary. Right before break, they had a fabulous musical that they put on every year. And then also, I just wanted to say thank you to both administration and all the teachers this week as they've come back. And even before they came back, a lot of people started brainstorming and working on things. And I know it's really tough to adjust everything to a different environment, and it's a steep learning curve for all of us.
Yeah.
And I know, even for myself, using Zoom with, students has been interesting and, but really helpful. And everything we can do to connect to our students during this time can really make a big difference for them and giving them some normalcy with routine. And I just look forward to seeing all the ingenuity from staff as we move forward. And maybe in some ways, this could be a positive for us to increase online presence and resources that we provide for kids in the long run. And I've just been impressed with everyone, and thank you to everyone in the district.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruner. What I failed to do earlier is to let people know who to message with any questions. We are not opening this up, the meeting up to citizen comments or parent questions or anything, but there are a couple of questions that I have received this evening. And one of the questions is, and I think we did cover this, was why haven't the teachers provided lesson plans yet for our students? And the other schools have been, other school districts and schools have been virtually teaching their children since last week. Well, the answer to that is our schools have actually been on break and did not come back until yesterday. So we had, our district was technically on break while the schools were closed, and now we are gearing up for the virtual lessons and virtually teaching students and getting things out to them and that will be mostly in earnest starting next week. Is that correct, Dr. Castile?
Yes, parents will be getting more communication tomorrow and Friday.
Okay. Another question was, where can donations be made? At Chandler Care Center, there are many PTOs wondering how we can contribute.
There are a number. I think the Care Center would be a great place, or contact us here at the district office, depending on what it is, and we'll make arrangements to connect with the donor. That would be wonderful. We are setting up some services at the Care Center to assist families, and that's located on the Galveston property. But again, if they contact us, contact Terry Locke's office or my office, we'll connect them with the right people, and would thank them in advance for their kindness.
Thank you. And Dr. Castile, would you like to also say a few words tonight?
Well, as a matter of fact, I would. I'd like to thank Mike Holland and Colleen Flannery and Robbie Taylor. They got us through our first Zoom meeting, and I think we've learned a lot tonight, and we'll get better if, assuming we're going to have to do this a couple more times or a few more times. Also like to thank Jeff Lebens, working with Terry Locke to keep our web page up to date, and we will keep all our parent communications and public communications. It's under the COVID-19 information on our website. I think you already thanked the staff. The administration was working most of last week, and I understand how some of our parents are very concerned that we haven't rolled everything out, but we are in the process of mobilizing over 5,000 employees to provide quality learning materials to 47,000 children, and it's just taken us a few days to gear up to that level. Again, like Mrs. Bruner said, there's a learning curve where we assessed our families who has access to internet. We are acquiring more hotspots because some of them have a device but don't have the internet access. Some of them are short of devices, and again, we've surveyed our families, our staff, to make sure everybody has the equipment they need. So for the next few days, you can expect to receive more information, and I thank the parents for their continued patience. We've had so many contacts of community members and parents that say, if you need food dropped off, if you need anything picked up, donations, just support and help. And that certainly has kept us going in light of feeling under a tremendous amount of pressure to get things moving relatively quickly. We share the concerns that our community, our state, and our nation are experiencing. And I just want the community and I know the board shares with us that we are focused on doing what we can to ensure the safety of our entire community as we move forward. And we want to do our part to help contain this virus. Again, I wish all of you good health and ask the community to acknowledge the CDC's safeguards with hand washing, keeping your distance, and hopefully we stay healthy and keep Chandler strong. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to come out of this and we're going to be better and we're going to be stronger as a result of it because we're going to stand together and support each other. So again, thank you, Governing Board, for going through your first Zoom meeting and helping us get through this first night. To the community with questions and concerns or issues or suggestions, please contact the district office. We are certainly open and checking emails and phone messages routinely. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Castillo. With that, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Everyone, please stay safe, be healthy, and please wash your hands. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Frank.